Last time we talked about why we stopped going to the moon. But what about the other side of the race? The 3rd of July, 1969. 13 days before Apollo 11. In the middle of the Kazakh steppe, a rocket taller than the Statue of Liberty lifts off, stalls, and falls back onto its own launch pad. The explosion is one of the largest non-nuclear blasts in history, and the world would not learn it happened for 20 years. The Soviet Union had already won almost every first in space. First satellite, first man, first woman, first spacewalk. Then, at the finish line that mattered most, they claimed they never even tried. That was a lie. While America started racing to the moon in 1961, the Soviets only fully committed in 1964, giving their rival a 3-year head start. The reason was simple. Their space program wasn't one team. It was rival design bureaus fighting each other for money, power, and engines. In 1966, the one man who held it all together, Sergei Korolev, died. What remained was the N-1, a giant rocket with 30 engines in its first stage. 30 engines that had never been tested together on the ground. The first time they all fired at once was launch day. 4 times they tried. 4 times the rocket failed. The second launch, on July 3rd, 1969, destroyed its own launch pad just 13 days before Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon. That same week, the Soviets sent Luna 15 to grab lunar soil and race it home. It crashed into a mountain. Months earlier, in 1968, they had already flown living tortoises around the moon and brought them back alive. Alexei Leonov was training to be the first Soviet on the lunar surface. The lander was ready, the cosmonauts were ready, but the rocket was not. In 1974, the entire program was quietly canceled. No announcement, just silence. Most of the hardware was ordered destroyed, but dozens of the advanced NK-33 engines were secretly saved. Decades later, those same Soviet moon engines would fly on American rockets. For 20 years, the official story was simple. We never tried, but they did try. They just weren't allowed to say it. The moon race had a second finisher. He just wasn't allowed to admit he'd run. In January 1966, Sergei Korolev died during surgery. He was the one man who could force the rival design bureaus to work together. After he was gone, the program lost its center. The biggest technical problem was the engines. The most experienced engine designer, Valentin Glushko, refused to build the large engines Korolev wanted. So the N-1 was forced to use 30 smaller engines instead of a few powerful ones. Alexei Leonov, the first man to walk in space, was chosen to be the first Soviet on the moon. He trained for the landing. The lunar lander was designed for one cosmonaut only. He would have had to spacewalk from the orbital module to the lander. In September 1968, a Soviet spacecraft flew 2 living tortoises around the moon and brought them safely back to Earth. It was the first time living creatures had circled the moon and returned. While Armstrong and Aldrin were still on the lunar surface, the Soviets launched Luna 15. Its mission was to land, collect soil, and race back to Earth before the Americans returned. It crashed into a mountain. In 1974, the entire moon program was canceled. There was no public announcement. The remaining rockets were ordered destroyed. Most documents were locked away or erased. Dozens of the advanced NK-33 engines were secretly saved instead of being destroyed. Decades later, some of those same engines were sold, refurbished, and flown on American rockets.